Well, thank you very much, Jane, and thank you for the invitation today. I'm very honoured to follow Lord O'Donnell, somebody for whom I have great admiration. And I would like to congratulate you on, and everybody involved, on the Carers Music Fund project, and also Spirit of 2012 and Carers UK for organising this summit today. And I note, obviously, that you fund projects that enable people to be active, creative, and socially connected with each other. And those are very much part of the principle of the Concertina Charitable Trust, which, as you rightly said, my wife Maggie and I set up many years ago to provide live music in care homes and day centres for the elderly. And obviously the particular focus of today is enabling female carers to have dedicated time and space to make music together. And that's something that I very strongly support. Our focus in Concertina is more with those who are cared for in terms of the elderly, but it is very much an important part of the organisation that by helping those who are cared for, we are also helping the carers themselves, many of whom are women. And therefore, I feel that the work of the Concertina charity is extremely relevant to today's summit. And what I wanted to just say was just a few words about the origins of the charity. Maggie and I have been married for nearly 30 years. And early on in our marriage, when we were living in London, we used to go and go and visit an elderly lady called Josephine in a care home in Earl's Court. And every time we went in there, we'd walk up the stairs and we'd pass a piano sitting in this hall nearby. And one day we asked her, does anybody ever play the piano? I mean, do you have sing-alongs? And it appeared that that wasn't the case, and that it was just an instrument that sat there without great use. And that's really what got us thinking, well, actually, having some live music might be brighten up people's lives living in a care home. And so that's where we started. And initially we started organising it ourselves, but we realised after a while that this was extremely cumbersome and very difficult and expensive to organise. So we changed the focus of the charity to become a charitable trust, which meant that we could support other charities that actually provide the live music. And we're focused on live music. We don't particularly support the provision of equipment, although occasionally we might do that. And we also don't really support the provision of taped music, although we have had to alter that somewhat during the COVID crisis, because obviously live music is not possible in a care home, but you can have some very imaginative ideas in terms of transmitted music in one form or another, either by video or on tape recorders or whatever. So we've had to adjust our focus. But we've tried to be, over the years that we've been running the charity, very much focused on the live music. And I think that goes back to the points that you've made as a summit today about being active, creative, and socially connected. And it's the live element that really contributes to that. And so that's really what the origin of it was. And the experience that we've had from it has been remarkable, really, because when we started doing it, there wasn't the same degree of appreciation that there is now across all sort of sectors and care areas of the importance of music. And in terms of how it also reaches deep through deep dementia. And I think probably everybody here has experienced a concert or a sing-along where you have people suffering from very, very deep dementia, and suddenly they come alive when the music it starts. And you can see them just recovering and reliving often their youth. And it is the most wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Now, there are countless examples of that, so I don't really need to recap them. But that is obviously a very important part. And then you've had a lot of studies and a lot of music therapy as well, which has really grown and expanded over recent years. And that obviously brings great joy to people, particularly to elderly people. And then there's just the simple process of an enjoyable sing-along, or watching different people performing. And it might be a guitarist, it might be handbell ringers. There's a whole wealth of imaginative ideas that people bring to care homes. And Jane, you mentioned my mother-in-law, Alina, in your kind introduction. And when we formed the charity, she wasn't suffering from dementia. So in fact, she had Alzheimer's. But during the course of the development of the charity, she then did have that. And so that gave us a greater understanding of the situation. And I think that it's wonderful to see a form of entertainment, a form of well-being that actually helps people with those difficulties and challenges in their life. And that meant that we spent a great deal of time going into the care homes that she was living in. And we could see over those years, and she died a few years ago, how actually the level of entertainment and creative activities with the elderly was improving almost year by year. So in the kind of 25-year arc of our involvement in Concertina, we have seen much, much greater interaction with the elderly in terms of these activities, particularly music, and a much deeper understanding of the benefits of music, not only for people with dementia, but for many, many elderly people. And as I said at the beginning of my remarks, this is also hugely beneficial to the carers, for whom I have the utmost admiration, both from a practical point of view of having witnessed the wonderful care that they provided my mother-in-law, but also generally through the charity itself. So I think it does have a double benefit in terms of not only the elderly, but also the carers. And since I became an MP 18 months ago, I've tried very hard to speak about this issue in Parliament, in Westminster Hall debate, ask questions and so on. I mean, inevitably as a new MP, it takes you a while to find your feet. But I feel that it's a really important subject and one that I want to particularly specialise in. And I'm delighted too that there's huge support amongst members of Parliament, and this is very much cross-party. This isn't a sort of party political issue at all. And there's a lot of people, a lot of members of Parliament very interested in music. I'm also chair of the all-party parliamentary group for performing arts education and training, which gives me a very good route into the widespread musical APPGs that there are in Parliament. And I think there is a very big understanding cross-party about the benefits of music for helping the elderly, which is my specialist area, obviously, but more broadly in terms of recognising that we need to do more to improve the well-being of not only those being cared for, but the carers themselves. And that really goes back to Lord O'Donnell's points in his excellent presentation, all of which I strongly support. And I think that his point about levelling up and so on, I think perhaps there is more in terms of the social element than he is necessarily suggesting. I've just been supporting a levelling up fund bid in my own constituency, and actually the ramifications of that are very broad. They're not only economic, but they're also very much social as well, and in terms of amenity and well-being. But that that was one of the points that I made very strongly in the Levelling Up Fund bid, that the ideas that I was coming up with would actually help the amenity and the well-being of people in Clwyd South. So I'll leave my remarks there, but just to thank you all again for everything that you've done, and to show my very strong support for us supporting this concept of well-being, which I think is just desperately important for combating loneliness and improving the quality of life of people across the country.